Good morning or afternoon, depending on which class you are in. We're going to cover area number 2, your assignment for today, due by the end of class. So I'm going to go through, give you some notes, and we will go from there. Just a heads up for area number 2, just to give you guys some feedback. I haven't gotten a chance to look at area number 1 yet. I probably will have by the time you're seeing this video. But I am going to be posting an answer key to this one after I collect it. I'll probably post it Monday after the weekend. So you'll be able to check, and it'll be all my notes on there so you can see if you're getting all the work right for area number 2 and the first two little sections of Chapter 11. All right, let's get started. The first four are review, find the area of each. Let's do find area and circumference. I don't know why it would just be one. It should just fix the directions, but it's area and circumference. All right, so find both. Use your calculator's value of pi. It's just a review of area number 1. So you know area equals pi radius squared. So you fill that in. Radius is 11, and then circumference equals 2 pi r. Again, same value for radius. Oops. Sorry, I got a smudge on my screen there. The same value for this radius will give you your area and circumference for the first four. Okay. Important to remember these formulas because they come into play today. So the new part for area number 2 is we're going to talk about finding arc lengths. We've found arc measures before. Arc lengths are a little different. And later on, we will find sector area. Okay. And really, finding arc lengths and sector areas are just using these same two formulas, but we're going to put a little fraction, a ratio, at the end of these to solve, to help us find just a portion of either the circumference or the area. Okay, so with that in mind, all right, we're going to talk about finding the length of an arc. Now, before, we have talked about the measures of arcs. We found arc measures, and that was pretty simple, especially when we're given the central angle like this, right? So this arc measure of this green arc would be 270 degrees. Oops, 270 degrees. But that's just the arc measure. That would be like the measure of arc ABC. The measure of arc ABC is like 270. Our answer is not going to be in degrees. I'm not asking for the measure of the arc. I'm asking for the actual length. Who's texting me? Get out of here. Okay. The actual length, like this green line that I drew. Let me get my little scissors tool out here. All right. This green line that I drew, not that. Okay. Imagine I straightened that out like a spaghetti noodle, right? I took it and I straightened it out. Okay, I want to know what this piece measures, I guess in this case for number 1, it's going to be feet, right? How many feet would this, this green line be here? Okay, so to find that, we're essentially finding circumference, right? The circumference would tell us the measure of this whole thing in feet, okay? And then, after I find the circumference, I am going to multiply that circumference by the ratio, the fraction of the circle that I want to find it for. So it's 270 degrees, and we'll talk about that when we get to the formula. So, first part, when we're talking about arc length, the length of the arc. Okay, that is going to use circumference. So let's just talk about finding circumference first. Circumference is 2 pi r. Okay, the radius, that little reference point they give us, is 14. So my circumference is going to equal 2 pi 14. Okay, and then we use our calculators, round your answer to the nearest tenth. So we're going to be rounding. So I am going to get 2 times 14. Okay, is 28. Now I'm actually going to leave that right now. I'm just going to leave it as 2 times 4. I just multiplied these two. Okay, this is all multiplication. It's 2 times pi times 14. I just multiplied 2 and 14 because it's multiplication. I could multiply in whatever order I want. Oops. And I'm just going to leave the pi for now because I'm going to have to multiply this by something else at the end, and I don't want to round in the middle of my problem. Remember we talked about that in the last video. So what it needs to happen right now is I'm going to be putting a ratio here, and I'm going to multiply that ratio times 28 and times pi. So I need to put a number here. That ratio, so the circumference we said is the whole thing. This would be, if I just found the circumference, it would be the measure of the whole thing. Well, what is that measure in degrees? This, if I drew a better circle than I did, this circle's awful. Okay, maybe if let's see how good I can make this. Let's see. How good can I make this? Yeah, it's pretty decent. Okay, so this red circle, if we just found the circumference would be, if I just multiply 28 and pi, I'd find the circumference. What is that red circle in degrees? What's all circles in degrees? All the way around, that's 360. So that's a part of my ratio that goes in this parentheses here. Okay, and it's going to be like the whole. We're doing a fraction here, right? So it's a fraction of the whole. And the whole piece is 360. So what fraction of the whole piece do I want the arc length for? Well, not that. It's going to be just this piece. Oops. And what's this piece in degrees? 270. So that's the ratio I'm going to multiply the circumference by. This will be the circumference to find the measure of just this arc and not the whole thing. So in my calculator, I mean, you could simplify that fraction if you want. You really don't have to. I'm just going to do 270 divided by 360. All right, that's going to give me 0.75. So in this parentheses is going to be 0.75. Okay, that's just 270 divided by 360. You could have reduced that. I think you divide 90s out of both of those and get 3/4, right? Yeah, 3/4 is 0.75. You don't have to do that though. That's extra. Okay, and then I have the pi, and I have that 28, which is 2 times 14. Just multiply these three together, and that's going to be my, I guess I'll use a different color here, my orange arc length. Just this piece is going to be the circumference times 0.75. So let's see. 28 times pi times 0.75, enter. I get, let me erase some of this, 65.97. I'm rounding to the tenths, which is here, so it's actually going to round to an even 66, right? This 7 is 5 or more, so that means this 9 is to go up. So 65.9 goes to 66, and that is my final answer. 66, let's include units here, feet. 66 feet is how much this orange arc would be. The measure of the whole circumference would have been, I don't know, what's 28 times pi? Like 88. The whole thing is 88, but just the orange portion, the 270 degrees, is 66. Cool. All right, let's try another one. I'm going to make my work a little more concise. I got a little carried away there, okay? So this is a little smaller portion, right? I only want this much of the circumference, which is 45 degrees. So that's going to be 45 out of the total 360. So the ratio is always going to be like whatever, they're going to give you this angle. They're going to give you this angle. And that is going to relate to this. So what portion of the circle is this? It is 45 out of 360. So that's going to be my ratio that I multiply the circumference by. So let's go circumference equals, my radius is 14, so I'm going to do 2 pi, my radius is 14. And I mean, I might as well just tack it on right now. I'm going to put at the end of this the ratio of what part they want me to find out of the whole. And this is all multiplication now. So you could literally just go down the line. If you're using a calculator, if you have, your blue calculators or whatever one you have, you could literally put this whole thing, just type it right in and just hit enter and it'll give you the right answer. I would put the 45 over 360 in parentheses when you're multiplying these. But if you're not using a calculator, using your phone calculator or iPad, I would figure this out first, and then it's a little easier. So 45 divided by 360 gives me 0.125. So that's what that number is going to be. And now, so I can cross this off, I could just multiply all of these numbers together, including pi, and that'll give me my answer. So in my calculator, you can do it in any order you want. It's all multiplication. So I'm going to do 2 times pi times 14 times, and the fraction of the circle, 0.125. Enter. My answer, another one rounding to a whole number. I got 10.99, which when rounded rounds up to 11. You don't have to put the 0.0. I'm just doing it because it says rounded tenths. You do not have to do that. Inches. That is the arc length. 11.0. So there's really no labeling here, so I'm good with just writing the answer and putting a box or a cloud around your answer. I would ask that you put units. Each one's going to be inches or feet or meters or something or miles. So let's do that. Let's do one more. I don't see any that are particularly difficult. It's the same thing, kind of over and over. I'll jump to, 9 here, okay? So let's set it up again. So it's the circumference formula. So circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius is 10. And then I know at the end here, I have a fourth multiplication number, and it's going to be the angle they give me out of a total circle. So 120 divided by 360, and that's going to be, I got a repeating decimal there, because that's 1/3. So depending on how you want to do that, I'm going to use my calculator to do it. So I'm going to multiply everything, and I'll put 1/3 in parentheses when I multiply these to get my exact number. So we do 2 times pi times 10 times, I'm going to do parentheses, 1 divided by 3, end parentheses, and then enter. You should get, I really shouldn't be writing the C because we're really not finding circumference. We are, but then we're changing it, so it's not really circumference. It's a fraction of the circumference, 1/3 of the circumference. So my answer here would be 20.94, which rounds to 20.9 centimeters. Cool. All right. There we go. All right, so let's go to the next one. Let's go to sector area now. The problems will look identical. It's the exact same layout. This one's almost the exact same as the first problem we did, except it looks like the radius is different. Yeah, the radius was 14 on the first one. Now the radius is 11. But it's almost the exact same problem. The difference between these is in the directions. It says find the area of each sector. So we're going to be finding area. Remember what I said about area in units. When I'm finding area, all of my units should be squared, right? My answer should be in units squared. So for 13, when I write my final answer, it's going to be in square miles, okay? So we're finding the area. And I think I'll go more into area and why it's squared. I'll do that in my next video for area number 3. I don't need to get into it right now. So we're finding the sector area. So we're going to kind of use the exact same thing. We're still using, what fraction of the circle do we want to find the area for? And remember, when we're talking about area, we're talking about all this space. All this space is what I'm finding. What's the square footage here, right? When you talk about a house, it's in square feet because that's the area. How much, floor space do I have, right? Square foot. So I'm trying to find my square mileage here because this is miles. That's quite big. So to find that, I need to know, right? I still have the fraction. I'm still going to be using this, right, the 270 over 360, but instead of using the circumference formula, since I'm talking about area, I'm going to use the area formula. So the area formula is pi radius squared, and then after that, that's where I'm going to put my ratio, the 270 over 360, which I think we did already, so I'll simplify it later. Okay, I'll simplify in this next step. So let's plug in for our radius. Right, our radius, all these will be given. You're not going to really have to work to find the values. You just have to know where they are. This is my radius. 11 miles is my radius, and this is that 270 helps me find, the ratio that I multiply by. So the radius is 11, and 11 squared is 121. So we go ahead and go pi times 1. You have to square first. Remember, order of operations. With all this multiplication, it doesn't matter. But when there's an exponent involved, how come everything's in red today? I don't remember choosing this. When there's an exponent involved, I have to do that first. So I did the radius 11 squared first to get my 121. And now, you're just going through, and it's more calculator work. I'm going to do 270 divided by 360. That's 0.75. So really what I'm doing is, I'm just going to cross this off and put a 0.75 after it. You're doing pi, so use your calculator pi button, times 121 times 0.75. Enter. All right, so the sector area is going to be 285.09, which is going to round to 1 square miles. Boom. There it is. 285.1 square miles. So it's really the same thing that we did for arc length, except now instead of the first part being the circumference formula, the first part's going to be the area formula. So let's go here. 14. I want a different color than red. I'm getting sick of red. How about blue? All right. So here's my radius, right? There's my R. And this is going to turn into what is going to be the ratio that I multiply my area by to find specifically the area right here. Right, I just want to know how much this little pizza slice is. Okay, I want to know how much that little pizza slice is. If I just did the regular area formula, that would be the area of this whole pizza. The whole thing would just be if I just used the plain area formula, like area number 1. But since I want to find this little pizza slice, I want to find 60 out of 360 degrees of my pizza. What the fraction of the pizza I want. So let's see. Area is pi. The radius is 16 squared. I have to do that first. Times, and my ratio is, oops, I wasn't doing a 30 there. 60 out of 360. All right, so 16 squared gives me 256. So I have pi times 256 times, 60, that's 1/6. Ooh, that's 1. So I'm just going to leave it as, I reduced it. You don't have to reduce it. You could have left it just like this. That's totally fine. Right, 60 divided by 360. Did I do that right? I did. Okay. I just reduced it, just less work for me, but you could have absolutely just used this right here. It would have been totally fine. So pi on pi. Pi times 256 times, I'll do a parentheses here, 1 divided by 6, end parentheses, enter. And I get a final answer of 134.04, which is going to round to the 0. Square inches. All right. Boom. And that's sector area. So this, this little part of the whole pizza, this section right here is 134 square inches, roughly, rounded. That part right there. The whole thing is obviously going to be more. When we multiply by this fraction, we're finding the fraction of the circle that we want. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we need to do. Oh, I have 2 area number 2s here. You only will get 1. So 20 questions, finish, turn in by the end of the period. Send me a message in Canvas if you have any questions. Good luck and have a good day.